If you're looking to buy the SkyRay King, you'll want to know about the light output, the different types of LEDs that go into it, the price range that you should be expecting, and the different brand options that you have. You can get the SkyRay King one, or you can get the Security Ying one, both of which are pretty good. And then once you've siliconed that button, put some grease behind it, and then no water can get into it. And then this thing's basically waterproof. So you can walk around in the rain with it, drop it into water, it doesn't really matter. My guess is that this thing's probably waterproof down to 3 meters easily. But I wouldn't use this thing for scuba diving. If you go scuba diving, you probably should get a flashlight that doesn't have a button. The button is still a way that water can affect it, but it's not a big deal because this thing only runs at 4 volt. So there you go. So this is what the car headlight looks like. I'm going to turn off the car headlights and turn on our SkyRay King at 75 watts. So the SkyRay King is definitely double the light output of the car headlights. It's a little different distribution, but it definitely lights up the area much brighter than just the car headlights. So I'm going to switch back to the car headlights and see what it looks like. So this is the car headlights. Now I'm going to turn on the SkyRay King in addition to the headlights. You can definitely see a lot more. Now for comparison, we're going to use the WF501B. That one is bright, but you can barely see it on the camera. So now we'll switch back to the SkyRay King. Take a look. So another important thing about the flashlight is distribution. When you're using a flashlight for walking down a trail, you want wide distribution, and at the same time you want a narrow distribution. This flashlight gives you that. If you're using a zoomable flashlight, it can only give you a wide throw or narrow throw, not both at the same time. By using a reflector-based fixed optic flashlight, you get both wide and narrow, but you can't change it in between. So this is the wide throw, and then the center spot is basically your narrow throw or spotlight. So this is good because you can walk down a trail, you can focus it down a little bit further but still have the wide angle floodlight, and then that allows you to see any objects in your peripheral. So it's good that the SkyRay King has a reflector based fixed optic. Having a fixed optic with wide throw and narrow throw at the same time is really safe, because when you're walking down a trail you can see to your peripheral and down the path far away at the same time. So this is the optic you want. Typically you can't change the optics on a fixed optic flashlight, but if you can get a diffuser out of an LCD screen, then you can throw it on the front of your flashlight and have a nice flood optic. So there's almost no more spot. The light just goes off to the left and right. Now you can see it has a huge wide distribution, like 170 degrees. Without that, it's going to be much more narrow, and it's basically a really good flood down. So without that, it's like 110 degrees instead of 170. So that's a quick way to change the optics on your fixed optic flashlight. And then you can just keep that inside the barrel and use it if you have to. The most important thing about flashlights is the light output. The amount of light that the LEDs output depends on the actual type of LED. Cree makes 2 types that go into this flashlight, the XM-L and the newer version called the XM-L2. The newer version puts out 16% more lumens. The units that are used to measure light are in lumens. 100 lumens looks pretty bright. Double that, that's 200 lumens. It basically looks twice as bright. So when buying this flashlight, make sure you get the XM-L or the XM-L2, depending on how much you want to pay and how important additional light output is for you. If you want the most powerful light, then obviously get the XM-L2. If you want to reduce your costs a bit, then get the XM-L. It's only 16%, you might find that doesn't really matter, so go with the cheaper one. You also should know that each LED can only operate at 10 watts, give or take. You can overdrive them a bit, but they'll get hotter and then they'll slowly degrade. LEDs are not like other light bulbs, they don't really burn out, they just decrease in efficacy. The efficacy of the XM-L2 LED is about 116 lumens per watt. That will just slowly decrease over time, quicker and quicker. The lifetime of an LED is measured in LM80. That's how long the light can run, to the point where it only outputs 80% of the original light output. So 80% of 116 lumens per watt. Knowing that these run at 10 watts, you just take the 10 watts times the lumens per watt, which is 100 for the XM-L, and now you know each LED puts out 1,000 lumens, theoretically. So with 7 of them, this flashlight can only put out a max of 7,000 lumens if it's using the XM-L LED. Now if you upgrade to the XM-L2 LEDs, you can put out 16% more. If you overdrive that a little bit, you can get a little more, but you can't overdrive these too much, otherwise they heat up beyond what they can handle and they just die. If you do heat it up quite a bit and it doesn't die, and they'll slowly degrade. So based on the knowledge that the LEDs can run at 10 watts, and that gives you over 1,000 lumens, the manufacturers actually only power these at half that, so 5 watts. So this thing, instead of putting out 7,000 lumens, will put out 3,500. And that's typical for all the flashlights on eBay, except maybe the WF501B, which actually uses over 10 watts and therefore puts out over 1,000 lumens. The rest of the flashlights are probably run at 8 watts, so they put out 800 lumens, give or take. But don't trust them when they say they put out 2,000 lumens or 2,500. There's no way that one LED can put out 2,000 lumens. So just make sure you keep that in mind. That can probably be said for most of the SkyRay King. So if you get the 3 LED one, it probably puts out half what it's supposed to, so 1,500 lumens, maybe 2,000 lumens, but it wouldn't be much more than that. If you get the 10 LED version, it's probably only running at 50 watts, so it's only going to give you 5,000 lumens, give or take. So keep that in mind when you're buying the SkyRay King or any other LED flashlight that uses Cree LEDs on there. You can just look up the lumen output. It's an Efficacy, lumens per watt. You can figure out how many watts the flashlight uses, then you can easily figure out how many lumens it's outputting. There's no magic to it. So if you want to test how many watts the flashlight's running at, to figure out how many lumens it's outputting, just hook it up to a meter and it'll tell you right away how many watts and lumens it's putting out. So the flashlight's operating at 71 watts, which means that's multiplied by 116. That gives you 8,236. So that's how many lumens those LEDs were actually pushing out the front. I did the same thing for these flashlights and they're around 10 watts, so they're 1,000 lumens. This is an XM-L only. These flashlights come in different models. This one's 7 LEDs. The SkyRay King in the same format comes in 3 LEDs all the way up to 10 LEDs. So this is in between. If you use the one with 3, it's going to have a bigger reflector, so you get the more narrow distribution. If you use the 7 times, then you're going to get a little bit more wide throw. And if you use the 10 times, that gives you the most wide throw and the most light because it has 10 LEDs. I think 7 LEDs is probably the sweet spot where you get the throw and the light output. Your runtime also gets impacted by how many LEDs you use. So if you want longer runtimes, get the one with 3 LEDs. If you don't care about runtime, get the 10 LEDs. And if you want something in between, high output, but still some runtime, get the 7 LEDs. So there's different models you can get depending on how much you want to pay and how much power you want the thing to have and how much battery life you want the thing to have. If you're getting the SkyRay King, it's a high-powered flashlight. That means you need good batteries. If you want the best batteries, get the Panasonics because they give you guaranteed output and guaranteed capacity. They cost a little more, but they're the best. If you don't care about runtime and you just want to buy cheap batteries, the cheap ultrafires you see on eBay are fine. They can actually provide 70 amps plus to this light, just like these ones can, but these can probably only do it for a third of the time. They cost a lot less, so that's probably worth it. If you can't find the Panasonic, Sanyo's or Samsung cells also work. They're pretty good. If you don't care about cost, size, or power, or runtime, then you can get the 16 or 18 times XM-L2 LED flashlights. They're much larger, but if you need that light output and you don't care about the size, then that's the way to go. But I'd rather have a smaller flashlight that fits in the palm of your hand, and the SkyRay King fits that bill. So in stock form, this flashlight's pretty good. It's basically only 35 watts, but all of the LEDs are driven by half the current, so just keep that in mind when you're buying a flashlight on eBay. But the good thing is that these are highly customizable. There's a lot of space in there for you to work on the circuit board, and the circuit board is really actually pretty easy to work on. It even has a spot there for a 40 amp MOSFET, so it's pretty good. So you can add the MOSFET, you can add resistors, you can add thermal trips, add a heatsink like I did, and then get your flashlight up to 8,700 lumens. After modding this flashlight, it's actually at above 8,000 lumens, as you saw from the power test. So all of the lumen outputs I think on eBay are theoretical, and you gotta do your own little mods to get it up to that point, but basically it's half of the theoretical output of the LEDs. But keep an eye on their theoretical output because even those are a little outrageous. So each of these can't put out 2,000 lumens. That's just impossible. It's not impossible, but it will damage the LEDs, so it's not really practical. You could probably even add USB chargers off the side here if you cut a hole, and you can definitely add LED drivers within that to change the way it works if you really wanted to. The body's made out of aluminum and it's really well machined, feels really nice and solid in the hand. The threads fit together nice and tight. For people who've had their power go out, it's really important to be able to have a tail stand. So this flashlight has a nice flat tail, allows you to tail stand really nice and easily, lights up the entire room. Flashlights that can't stand on their tail are very difficult at using to light up the room, because you put them on the side here, you're lighting up over there, you kind of want to see over there. Being able to do a tail stand and light up the entire room is really nice. The button's in a good spot. You can hold it like this and manipulate it while you're walking around. Change it to low if you have to, change it to strobe. The operation of the SkyRay Kings are all pretty similar. It has 3 modes: high, medium, and low. At any point in time you can push the strobe and it'll go to strobe. If it's off, you can hold the button for 3 seconds and it'll go to strobe, and then it goes to off. You have to cycle through to low before you can turn it off, but that's not a big deal. In stock form, the flashlight runs at 35 watts, and that still gets pretty hot. This lanyard that comes with it, and you can put it around the front, and you can hold it like this, so even if you walk around for 30 minutes and it gets hot, you can still aim at everything. So it allows this flashlight to be compact, fit in your pocket, and when you need a lot of power, it's there for you. When you put it in your pocket or when you store it away, just make sure you unscrew it a half turn so that it doesn't turn on by accident. When you turn it a half turn, the batteries disconnect, and it's a lot safer that way. If it accidentally gets turned on inside a bag or something, it will melt all the fabric and plastic in front of it, so be careful. Here it actually melted the bag so bad that it's completely fused together on the inside. That's what it's going to do to the inside of your bag or pocket, so be careful with this thing. Let's see how quickly it melts through plastic when it's right up against it. So it's hot enough to melt plastic pretty easily. So it heats up fabric to over 350 degrees Fahrenheit, so make sure you be very careful with this, because it will probably burn you. So this is why you got to be very careful with this flashlight. That's why we unscrew it before putting it in a pocket or inside a bag. So this is definitely the most powerful flashlight that fits in your pocket. The seal in the front, the center, and the back are very good. It's got nice silicone seals and they're waterproof. The only downside is the button. It actually can allow air and water to get in. You can solve that by unscrewing this, taking the circuit board out, putting some silicone around it, pushing it back in, and then screwing this back down. And then once you do that, this thing's waterproof. So I hope that gives you a good idea of what the flashlight can do, the pros, the cons. Even though it's got some downfalls, it still provides some pretty good value. So search the internet for a good price, get the lowest price for this flashlight, and then you'll have yourself a great flashlight for a good price. Thanks for watching, and I hope that helps. I quickly wanted to talk about color temperature. Color temperature is measured in Kelvin, and 3000 is warm, 4000 is normal white, natural white, and then 5000, 6000 is cool white. Basically, 3000 is kind of orangey, and then all the way up to 6000 kind of blue. It's basically personal preference, and also the fact that the sun sets orange, and then when the sun rises, it becomes 6000 Kelvin, nice, bright, cool light. So 6000 Kelvin keeps you wired, wakes you up, and a warm color temperature, 3000, or like the sunset, kind of puts you to sleep. So if you're going to be using this light around your house before you go to bed, you probably don't want a cool blue one. That will keep you awake and keep you wired. You want something kind of warmer. This one is still 4000 Kelvin, but it's definitely not 6000 like this one. And then the SkyRay King that I have is around 4000, maybe 45, and that's pretty white. It's almost on the blue side, but barely. So the color temperature of the LEDs affect your circadian rhythm, how you wake up, how you fall asleep, how wired you feel, how drowsy you feel. There's also color rendering. The color rendering of the XM-L2 seem to be a little higher than the poor color rendering of the XM-L T6s. The T6 flashlights can actually be cool white, or warm white, or natural white. So even though it says it's a T6, the color temperature may vary, so you might get something like this, or you might get something like this. And then don't confuse that with the luminous flux group. That's the grouping that defines the efficacy performance of the LEDs. U3 is one of the best, and then U2 is just behind that, and then T6 is behind that. So if you want the best light output, get the U3, but they mostly sell U2 on the internet. So to compare color temperature, this is the baseline, is an incandescent lamp. People have gotten used to that, and it's good for using inside your house because it's nice and warm. You can leave it in your bedroom. If you go to sleep with a light that has a high color temperature, it's going to keep you wired, keep you awake, and that's not good. So a couple hours before you go to sleep, expose yourself to warm color temperatures and try to avoid blue and high color temperatures like this, because it tricks your brain into thinking it's the middle of the day and the sun's out. So that goes with buying any lights inside your house. Make sure you get warm color temperature, don't get cool color temperature. If you do, you may have problems sleeping or falling asleep. So here are the different color temperatures. We've got warm white, natural white, and cool white. Cool white's going to be your blue one, natural white's just going to be white, and then warm white's going to be a little orange. So I personally like the warm white light, so I would probably get 3000 and then 7A3. These letters here are the different bins, so it kind of shifts a little bit more orange or yellow and then shifts over to kind of red or pink, but you just got to check the graph for that. So in this little curve, you select your 3000 and then you run down to whatever chromaticity you want. So 7A3 is probably good. If you get 7B3, it's a little more orange or yellow. So this is a similar chromaticity graph. Up here is kind of orange and yellow, and then down here is kind of red and pink. So if you want more red and pink, then go down here. If you want more yellow and orange, go up there. So I hope that helps, and thanks for watching. So I just ran at the camera with the SkyRay King. Probably couldn't see a single thing.